Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack an absolutely crucial financial concept. Honestly, understanding this could literally be the difference between your business thriving or, well, quietly bleeding money without you even noticing. We're going to dive right into why traditional costing methods might actually be failing your modern business operations, and how a really powerful technique called activity-based costing, or ABC, provides the ultimate solution for uncovering your true product costs. So let's start with a pretty critical question. What if the accounting method you use to price your products is actually secretly losing you money? I know it sounds a little dramatic, right? But relying on outdated accounting methods to price your products in today's landscape is a massive financial liability. You might be looking at your profit margins, feeling totally confident, completely unaware that the very way you're calculating those margins is fundamentally flawed. To understand exactly why this happens, we have to look back at how manufacturing and business have evolved over time. We really need to understand that there has been a massive shift in how things are made. Think about it. In the past, traditional manufacturing relied heavily on direct labor. You had a lot of workers building things by hand, which meant relatively low indirect costs, or overheads. But fast forward to the modern factory floor, and it's a completely different world. We're talking highly computerized systems, advanced robotics, custom batch runs, and massive indirect overheads. Because of all this tech, direct labor is actually a much smaller piece of the pie now. And here is the crucial point. Traditional absorption costing, the old way of doing things, arbitrarily lumps all these massive new overheads together. It usually just absorbs these costs into products based on the sheer volume of production, like the number of units made or the machine hours used. It's literally like splitting a dinner bill perfectly evenly among friends, even though you just had a side salad and your buddy ordered the steak and lobster. It's fundamentally broken. I mean, why should a highly complex product that requires tons of setup time and quality control absorb the exact same overhead as a super simple product just because they spend the same amount of time on a machine? Okay, so how do we actually fix this pricing illusion? Well, this is exactly where activity-based costing steps in. ABC is a modern approach that completely abandons the old idea of using arbitrary departments as gathering points for costs. Instead, it gathers your overheads into specific, logical categories called cost pools. Simply put, a cost pool is an activity that consumes resources and incurs a cost. So rather than having one giant messy bucket of money labeled factory overheads, you have very specific pools for real activities, like setting up machines, processing orders, or maintaining equipment. Now, once you have your cost pools set up, you need the engine that drives them, right? And we call that the cost driver. For every single cost pool, we have to find what actually causes that cost to increase or decrease. This is your causal link. It's the actual trigger describing exactly how producing a unit incurs those pooled costs. So if your cost pool is machine setup costs, the cost driver isn't how many hours the machine is running. The driver is the actual number of setups required for that specific production batch. This whole concept is a game changer because it effectively links the overhead directly to the cost unit. By using these cost drivers, ABC allows us to track the true flow of money based on real, tangible activities rather than broad, inaccurate averages. It replaces those arbitrary percentages with a direct cause and effect relationship. You are finally tracing the actual footprint of resources that a product leaves behind as it moves through your business. To make this super concrete, let's look at a real-time example. Imagine a clothing manufacturer's machining department. In a traditional system, the overhead absorption rate would probably just be based on machine hours. So the machining department gets allocated not just machine power and maintenance, but also an arbitrary share of the entire factory's rent, heating, and lighting, simply based on how long their machines were running. But let's be real, machine hours are definitely not directly responsible for the rent. Now, what's really fascinating is how activity-based costing reassigns those exact same costs based on the real actions happening on the factory floor. Instead of dumping everything into one bucket, we separate the activities out. The cost of setting up the machinery? Well, that's driven by the number of setups. Running the machines? That's driven by machine hours. The cost of processing orders? That relates directly to the number of orders or the weight dispatched. And purchasing costs? Driven by the number of purchase orders made. It's logical, it's incredibly precise, and it drastically reduces the need for those wild, arbitrary apportionments. When we take those real cost drivers and apply them to an actual product line, the results can be entirely eye-opening. Let's analyze 3 different items, product A, B, and C. After tracing all the costs properly through ABC, product A comes in at a total cost of around $61. Product B sits at around $75. But get this, look at product C. The overhead alone is over $61, pushing its true total cost to nearly $96. And boom, this brilliantly illustrates the pricing illusion we talked about earlier. Product C is massively undercosted, while A and B are actually overcosted. The traditional method completely missed the huge proportion of complex, non-volume-based costs driven by Product C. You might have thought Product C was cheap to make, priced it really low, and actually been aggressively losing money on your most resource-heavy items. Meanwhile, you're probably pricing A and B way too high and losing sales to your competitors. Now, while ABC clearly gives us superior pricing insights, way better cost control, and a much deeper understanding of what actually causes our overhead, we do have to remain objective here. It is not a magic wand for every single business. ABC can be a complex, data-heavy procedure which makes it costly and fairly time-consuming to implement. It requires a lot of meticulous data gathering, and honestly, it's really only beneficial if your overheads make up a significant proportion of your overall costs. Plus, truthfully, even with the best ABC system, you can't escape some arbitrary cost allocations, simply because it's impossible to perfectly allocate every single overhead cost to a specific activity. Knowing all of this, our final takeaway is pretty clear. You need to look at your own business operations, whether that's service delivery or manufacturing lines, and ask yourself this critical question. Are you absolutely sure you know what your products actually cost? Are you truly capturing your overheads accurately based on the activities that drive them, or are you effectively flying blind into your next pricing strategy? Activity-based costing offers a truly powerful lens to see the true cost of your operations, ensuring that the price you charge actually reflects the resources you consume. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you look at your numbers in a whole new light.